The April 17th, 2025 hearing for the Planning and Land Development Regulation Commission is now called to order. And if I could please have you silence any audible devices that you may have. And if you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And Ms. Summers, could I please get a roll call?
Good morning. Emily Bush.
Here.
Christopher Erickson.
Present.
Donna Craig.
Here.
Stoney Sixma is absent. Edith Shelley.
Here.
Frank Costa.
Here.
Ronnie Mills.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Summers. And first of all, we do have a little bit of housekeeping to do, and I would like to welcome our newest members here, Ms. Bush, Ms. Emily Bush, and Mr. Christopher Erickson. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we do have some housekeeping as far as we need an election of officers this morning. We're looking for nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, please.
You can do so.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ronnie Mills to chair and Edith Shelley to secretary.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor for Mr. Costa to appoint myself, Ronnie Mills, and for chair, and Ms. Shelley for secretary, and a second for Mr. Erickson. Any discussion on the motion? First of all, do you accept it, Ms. Shelley?
Yes, and I am qualified.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess I'll do it again. So
One more round.
one more, at least. Anyway, motion's on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we need
And
go ahead, Ms. Seth.
I'd like to make, excuse me, I'm so overcome by emotion. I would like to nominate Frank Costa as vice chair.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to nominate Mr. Frank Costa for vice chair, for Ms. Shelley, and a second for Ms. Craig. Any discussion on the motion? Do you accept it, Mr. Costa?
Yes, I'll accept.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Well, that didn't hurt too bad. Okay, we do have some minutes from February the 20th, 2025. Is anybody like any discussion on the motion? I mean, the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Okay, I got a motion to approve the February 20th, 2025 minutes for Ms. Shelley and a second for Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, if anyone would like to speak for or against any of the cases being heard today, if you could please fill out a form at the back of the dais here and hand it to Ms. Summers to my extreme left there, and we will be limiting you to a 3-minute time limit. After the comments have been heard, I will give the applicant an opportunity to address any concerns the speakers have and answer any questions the commissioners may have. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Sawyer for legal comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for members of the public as well as applicants that decisions by this body on special exception cases and cases which rezone real property from one classification to another pursuant to the zoning ordinance are recommendations only to the county council and do not constitute a final hearing. So new evidence may be introduced at the county council public hearing. However, decisions on variances made by this body constitute final action subject to an appeal to the county council. And what this means is that no new evidence may be presented at the time of the county council public hearing on the appeal. An aggrieved party that appeals such a decision is confined to the record made before this body. Hearings by this body on rezonings, special exceptions, and variances are quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that this body is acting more like a court and must take into account all oral, written, or demonstrative evidence presented. Their decisions on these cases must be based on competent substantial evidence on the record, and competent substantial evidence has been defined as that evidence a reasonable mind would accept to support a conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Soria. And while we're on legal comments, I would like to ask the commission to disclose for the record any ex parte communications that have occurred before or during the public hearing at which a vote is to be taken on any quasi-judicial matter. And I'll start with my immediate right with Mr. Erston. Have you heard any? Okay, that's great.
I have none.
Ms. Shelley?
None.
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 And I have none. Okay, we're going to move right into it. Do we have any items to be continued or withdrawn, Mr. Ashley?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, do we have any unfinished old business? I don't think so. All right, we're going to move right into the new business. Ms. Shelley, could I get you to read the first case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-016, a variance to the minimum yard requirements on forestry resource, FR, and resource corridor, RC zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Ray, this one's yours.
Good morning. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the west front yard from 100 feet to 73.81 feet for a proposed single-family residence. The subject property is located within a flying community and is triangular in shape. The property is currently vacant and heavily treed. A majority of the eastern portion of the property is comprised of wetlands. It is also located in our natural resource management area, so therefore they have a required 50-foot wetland buffer. The property also has two man-made ponds within the western portion of the property, one towards the northern boundary and one towards the southern boundary. According to the applicant's written petition, the easement for the right-of-way and the runway extends approximately 125 feet into the property. The site plan submitted by the applicant shows that the owners have designed the single-family residence to avoid the wetlands and the associated buffers, but in doing so encroaches into the front yard requirement. Staff's recommendation is to approve the variance request as it meets at least 3 out of the 5 criteria for granting said variance. I do also want to note that a letter of support was submitted from the adjacent neighbor to the north. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none. Oh, Ms. Bush?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have a couple questions for staff. First off, when was the Lafayette Landings PD originally approved?
Mr. Chair, I can answer that. Scott Ashley, zoning manager. Lafayette Landing was approved or existed since the late 1980s, and this is one of the remaining lots to be developed. I'd say probably about 60% of the project has been developed out. It is if you will, an island of upland surrounded by a lot of wetland areas. That is a problematic for this particular lot in question as well. And so the applicant is seeking relief from encroaching in the wetland area and the buffer and shifting it closer to the front lot line.
Thank you, Mr. Ashley. Any more questions?
I have a question.
I do have a few more.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I don't know if I should hit this for every question that I have or if I should just keep asking.
You don't have to do it for every question.
Okay.
You can continue.
Do we know when the ponds were constructed? And if this is not something that you can answer, I can ask the applicant.
I'm not sure.
And then I'm just curious as to why the county is measuring from the easement and not the property line for the setback.
Staff measures from the easement line because essentially this is not only a runway but a street. And so we measure from the edge of the street, which is the easement referenced by Mr. Ray. So any property that has a private easement serving as its street, we measure from the edge of that easement.
Okay. One more question. How will, and I don't know if this is, again, a question for staff or the applicant, but filling in a portion of the second man-made pond, how will that affect drainage on the property and on the adjacent parcel as well? Has there been any stormwater? I know that that's usually submitted during site plan or permitting, but do we know how that's going to impact that pond?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bush. Mr. Ashley, did you have a comment you wanted to add to that?
Well, I just want to add that, stormwater that you referenced as an individual lot, that's not something we deal with, other than specifically in the Bethune Beach area because of the Class 2 overlay zone mandates on-site stormwater. These ponds, if not knowing when they were dug, but obviously what the plan is indicating is primarily for the home, I would suspect that during permitting, staff would be looking for the hangar, if that's what your concern is, be shifted out of that pond area. If it is man-made, then depending on how old it is, it probably may not qualify as a wetland per se. Typically, a lot of these ponds in the rural areas were dug to provide fill material, and it may have been dug to provide fill for the runway area. It is a grass strip, so if you look at the map, it is raised. I imagine at some point when it constructed, it was not completely out of the floodplain, perhaps. So there are several ponds throughout the area of Lafayette Landing. This is the southern end of it, but there are multiple ponds out there to accommodate the elevation issues out there.
Okay, Ms. Craig, you had a question?
Yes, sir. I was wondering what the governing authority, if there is any, defines the easement for the runway, and if this 125 feet into the easement would be in competition with their normal requirements.
It may. Any HOA restrictions run concurrently with the county's restrictions. So for all intents and purposes, we have to act and analyze an application as if the whatever HOA covenants don't exist, because we can only apply our rules. If there is a conflict between the two, that would have to be reconciled. Usually on the HOA's end, they would defer to the county regulations if there's a more restrictive standard. If our standard is more restrictive, it doesn't matter what the HOA restrictions are.
So the HOA can
If one
make
exists.
the regulations for the runway easement?
Yes, it's their, I'm assuming this is their private easement. There's some kind of shared document. If not, then that's an issue for the private owners, which the county does not get involved in that kind of private dispute.
Thank you.
As Scott said, this is acting both as a runway and as the street. So even though the property lines run to the middle of the easement itself is shared amongst all the property owners here. So it's acting like a private road and private street. So that's why we measure everything from the edge of the easement.
Any other questions, Ms. Craig? Okay. Seeing no other requests, is the applicant present? Can I get your name and address for the record, sir?
South Nova Road, Daytona Beach. Happy to be here this morning. How you doing? So yeah, I think I can help maybe answer some of these questions. First of all, with talking about the location of the home and the setbacks and whatnot. So from the front property line, which is basically the middle of this runway, the house site's about, and some of this is stuff I estimated, but about 225 feet from that. From the actual roadway that's built within this easement is about roughly 40 feet from the edge of the easement. So I think I'm looking at about 115 feet between the road and this house location. Another thing I wanted to point out was, and I didn't realize this until I really was looking at the aerial, is there's trees, the trees that are on this site, they actually, they're like 30 to 40 feet, I think, away from the road. So some of the trees are actually between the edge of the easement. They're actually inside the easement toward the road side. So it's not like this area where we're proposing to have this house and where this easement is. It's not like this is where planes are landing or anything. the planes are landing inside the roadway, the easement does come out a certain amount, and I understand that, the county does have to look at the setback from that easement line, but realistically speaking, it's not like anything, really, for the most part, anything that's inside the property from the road is not really being used for anything other than just this person's yard. So another thing, let's see, I made some notes here, some questions. So the ponds, I'm not sure when those ponds were dug. It looks, if I had to guess, I'd say probably like way, way back. It looks actually like there's, some of these ponds were dug a long time ago, and a kind of an area for a house was kind of created. And part of, I think, where this house is sited is to kind of stay on that kind of little upper area. We've agreed to do stem wall construction on this, worked closely with the county on siting this, decrease the size of the home. Agreed to do stem wall, try to keep it out of the buffer, and I think that does better for flood and also just to allow the natural environment to kind of move up. You don't have to have as much fill with stem wall. So there's that. On the HOA, I spoke to the HOA's attorney a couple days ago, and he was asking about the the setbacks here, and I think the HOA has about like a 75-foot setback from the property line when I talked to him. So I think that the HOA is good with this. Like I said, I talked to the attorney, and we seemed to come to an agreement. But I know we also have my client's spoken to a lot of the property owners surrounding who are in support, and we actually have the one directly to the north who has contacted the county with a letter of support. So yeah, when you have a situation like this where you're trying to stay out of the wetlands, you have a very compact area to build on because of the ponds and the easement setback. You're 225 feet from the property line and over 115 feet from the road. I think that this does this is a situation where you have some special circumstances that allow for some leeway on trying to site the house in a good spot. So. So anyway, if there's any other questions anybody has or anything I can do or concerns, I'm happy to talk with you about them.
Okay. Ms. Bush, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Could the house be shifted further south and oriented so that it doesn't have to have a variance request?
Well, like I was saying, I think that this house was kind of designed to be on this kind of upper, this slightly higher area.
Mm-hmm.
We may have to bring this hangar forward and out of this pond. I'm not sure exactly about I think this is a man-made pond, but I'm not sure exactly what the rules are for that. I'm not the engineer on this. So, but if that hangar is brought forward, it's going to create even less room in there. The idea was to try to orient the house to be kind of, how the front actually face in the road like a normal house would, and to leave some leeway in there to be able to site the hangar so that they're not basically touching each other. You have enough room in there that it meets the building code standards and whatever. So, in my opinion, I think this is a very reasonable place to put the house, and I think it's sited to the property well. It's designed to be in the trees and kind of blend in with the natural environment. It's not like that this is a pasture and we're sticking on the pasture. This is actually back into the trees in the property. And I think it's consistent with a lot of the other houses out there as well. So.
Any other questions, Ms. Bush?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ashley, you had a comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Your name keeps on popping up here. I don't know why. That's fine. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Do we have any public participation forms?
No, sir.
Okay. We're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'll be glad to make a motion.
Ms. Shelley?
I move that we approve the variance request, case number V-25-016, subject to the staff condition on page 5.
A second.
I got a motion on the floor from Ms. Shelley to approve variance V25016 with the one staff condition, and a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion?
Just want to point out that we do have one letter of support for this variance that we received this morning, and none of opposition that I can find.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor, signify. Oh, Ms. Bush?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just want to point out that I've been taught as a practicing planner that you have to meet all of the variance requirement in order to receive a variance. So I honestly think that they could shift the house. I've actually written a few variances in other jurisdictions before, and we've had to adjust the design of the house in order to meet that requirement. I'm looking at the elevation. I think you can shift it a little bit further south. I think you can adjust maybe the architecture and the layout in order to meet the requirements. So I just wanted to point that out for the record that that I do think that you can shift that in order to not have to need the variance. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bush. While you that statement, Mr. Soria, can you explain how that changed from the
Sure.
meeting on 5 criteria?
I believe last year you used to have to obtain a variance. You needed to meet all 5 criteria. So you would see a lot of staff reports recommend denial, usually because it's not the minimum variance necessary. Upon direction of the county council, that changed. So that's why you see the staff report. You need to only meet 3 of the criteria to receive staff approval. The determination of whether or not there's substantial evidence for them to meet 3 out of 5 is up to this board. So even if they only have to meet 3 out of 5, if they don't have any evidence, that should be the signal that you should deny it. But however, that factual determination is up to this committee.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with Ms. Bush in
One
dissent.
dissent.
6-1.
Oh, you voted against? Yeah.
One
I'm
against.
sorry,
Ms.
not
Bush.
unanimously. Motion carried 5-1 with Ms. Bush in dissent. Ms. Shelley, could I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-021, variances to a substandard lot and to the minimum yard requirements on urban single-family residential R9 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. And Ms. Ray, this one's yours also.
Good morning again. The applicant is seeking 4 variances for a proposed deck addition. Variance 1 is to allow development on a substandard lot. Variance 2 is to reduce the north front yard from 15 feet to 10.5 feet. Variance 3 is to reduce the north front yard from 15 feet to 8.2 feet. And variance 4 is to reduce the east front yard from 25 feet to 22 feet. The subject property is currently developed with a single-family residence and a 220 square foot second floor deck that borders along the northern and eastern portions of the residence. There are existing stairs to the deck that are located on the northern side of the residence that face the driveway. The applicant has proposed to remove the existing deck and replace it with a 362 square foot deck, increasing it by 142 square feet. They are proposing to extend the deck on the eastern side and reposition the stairs to face Sheepshead Avenue. The property is zoned R9. The minimum lot area is 7,500 square feet. The property is approximately 4,251 square feet, so it is considered a substandard lot because it is less than 5,000 square feet. The subject property is also a corner lot, which is subject to 2 front yards and 2 side yards. Within the R9 zoning classification, it has a minimum front yard requirement of 25 feet, except on a corner lot where 1 front yard may be reduced to 15 feet. The variance requests will not likely be injurious to the area, as the second floor deck has been in place since at least 2006. Staff's recommendation for variances 1 and 2 are for approval, and variances 3 and 4 are for denial. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions for staff? Well, wait just a moment. I'll get you up here. No, that's okay. We'll get you up here. Ms. Bush?
Question for staff. I'm a little confused on variance 1. If it was allowed in 1985, why are they having to reapply?
So when they received the variance in 1985, it was measured at 5,000 square feet. Somehow between 1985 and now, it is now 4,200 some odd square feet. So that's where that variance is.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple follow-up questions. Will the applicant be required to meet the Class 2 overlay during the building permit process?
Yes, ma'am. There's also within the file that when they submitted for their permit for this deck, environmental permitting reviewed it, and they said that the Class 2 overlay was not required because of the square footage of the proposed structure.
Okay. And last question, and I believe you might have answered this already, I apologize, but was a permit pulled for the deck addition built before 2006?
I couldn't find the record of it, so I'm not sure if it was built with the residents, but I didn't see any record. But according to historical aerials, it was in place prior to, since at least 2006.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Now you can come up. If you have any pictures, you want to hand them to Miss and to Miss Summers. And once you will not be getting them back though once you submit them. Okay. Can I get you up here and give me your name and address for the record?
All right. My name is Kathy Rue. I live at 876 Sheepshead Avenue, New Smyrna Beach. And what else did you need?
You've heard the staff report. Anything you would like to add to that?
Yes. I've owned the property since 2004, and that might answer some of the questions. It was a long, big lot. The lady prior to me that owned it had it divided. And when she divided it, she made my lot smaller and the other lot larger. I've owned it since 2004. In the beginning, the first 10 years, we went there occasionally, but we mainly were renting it. And then when we retired, my husband got Alzheimer's 2014, and we both had to retire. I had to take care of him. We moved out to the beach, and I was his caretaker for the last 10 years. He died a year and a half ago, and so now I'm the sole owner. So I haven't been able to really do anything. There's a bad flooding problem, as you'll see when they pass the pictures around, because it isn't a flood zone. And I haven't been able to really do anything about that because I was taking care of my husband, and he wouldn't tolerate any kind of building or construction going on. So now I'm asking for the extended porch and the stairs to go out to the street so that I can navigate when there is flooding. And there is flooding. If it's heavy rain, hurricanes, I can get anywhere from 4 to 10-inch flooding. As I'm getting older, and I thought maybe I should just try to move. I'm totally in love with where I am, and I would like to try to help the problem. The county did help me out a little bit. When we first full-time moved out, at least they tried to help me out. They put a berm along the side, I guess it's the north side of the property, and they thought it would stop the water in the street from getting into my house area. But actually what it kind of did is made my house more of a pocket. And so there is a higher area there because of the berm. And that's why if I could get my stairs in the north, instead of going along the side of the house, to go out to this berm, it's higher. And so I could get out safely without, during these hurricanes, I have to put on boots and the stairs, if you can see the stairway there, currently they go right down to the lowest part of the property, which is where I have to walk out to. This would allow me to walk out to the street, and then I can park my car, because the driveway kind of goes down. I can park my car up on the top of the driveway so that I'm not going down to where the flooding area is. And also, I would like to extend the porch by 4 feet because we try to have a little patio underneath the house. You can't build anything underneath the house, and I understand that. But there is a patio area there, and it gets totally flooded too. And you can see that the little front porch, which faces the east, is just a little, almost like a little walkway. And it was there when we bought it. So I've never been able to expand it before. And at this point, I'd really appreciate being able to expand it so that we can actually walk. You can see the chairs. You have to come out the front door and just kind of line up, and then you're going to sit down. But this way, we would be able to have a little table there, be able to move around, and make it livable space, because the downstairs is not all that, it's not livable, especially when it's raining. So I'm asking that you consider this. I'm not sure what else to tell you about it, but if you have questions, I'm here.
Okay, we'll see if anyone has any questions for you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, we don't have any. Do we have any public participation forms, Mrs. Summers?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so when do I find out?
We're fixing to tell you. We're going to be telling you in just a minute, okay?
Okay. See, I have a little bit of a problem because I brought my hearing aids into Costco and they had to send them back, so I'm not hearing very well. I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion, and we will give you a decision in about 2 minutes,
Okay.
I think. Okay. All right, we're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
On case V-25-021, make a motion that we approve variances 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the one staff recommended condition.
Second.
Okay. Who did I get that second from?
You can let Chris have it.
Okay. All right. I got let me see here. I got a motion on the floor to approve variances 1, 2, 3, and 4 for V-25-021 with the one staff condition from Mr. Costa and a second from Mr. Urson. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Bush.
I'm again going to say that I honestly agree with staff in allowing variances 1 and 2, but denying variances 3 and 4. I just don't see the hardship in expanding the deck. I've looked at the surrounding area. They're very narrow as it is. It's not common, at least that I can see via Google Maps, that the stairs approach the front of the house in the manner that she's suggesting in the site plan, and you could do an elevated deck on the first floor. So those are my comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries to 5-1 with Ms. Bush in dissent. Ms. Shelley, could I get the next case, please?
Yes. Case number V-25-022, a variance to the minimum yard requirements on transitional agriculture A3 and resource corridor RC zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Ray, this one's yours.
The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the west side yard from 25 feet to 10 feet for a proposed 1,000 square foot accessory structure. The subject property is currently developed with a single-family residence towards the southwestern portion of the property with a one-story building just to the east. Section 72-277A5 states that the accessory structures exceeding 500 square feet in area shall meet the same yard requirements as the principal structure. The structure is proposed within the A3 zoning classification, and therefore the minimum front yard requirement would be 40 feet and minimum side yard requirement would be 25 feet. According to the submitted site plan, the structure will meet the front yard requirement of 40 feet. The applicant did state in their written petition that the proposed location of the structure is to ensure that it is located outside of the floodplain. which the floodplain is majority in the rear yard or the northern portion of the property. The requested variance is unlikely to be injurious to the area, and staff's recommendation is to deny the variance as it did fail to meet at least 3 of the 5 criteria for granting said variance. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Ms. Bush, you had a question for staff?
Yes. Can you tell me what the ISR, the impervious surface ratio, is on this lot?
Not off the top of my head. I did do the calculation to make sure that they did meet lot coverage, but for the impervious, I'm not sure.
Ms. Bush, the maximum permitted by our land development code is 80% of impervious coverage.
Pervious, not impervious.
Impervious coverage.
Impervious
Yes, ma'am.
coverage.
But the lot coverage is 35% for buildings and accessory structures.
Okay. So the pavers
Mhm.
would count, but not for the building coverage of 30%.
Not for the building coverage, no.
And do we know what we don't know what the ISR on this parcel is?
We don't, but just looking at the site, the survey, there is a lot of coverage, but I don't believe it's going to trip the 80%.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Could I get your name and address for the record?
You want me to? Okay, so it's Mike McDaniel, and oh my gosh, what's your address?
What's the address?
Yeah. If you want to speak into the mic, please.
769.
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry, I have it right here. Mike McDaniel. The address is 2769 Letha Street.
Is that your address?
That is his address, the customer.
Okay.
I'm the contractor.
Oh, you're
I'm
the
with Green
contractor.
Construction. Yes.
So,
Are those mics on, or I'm really having a hard time hearing this gentleman?
Yes. Okay.
You're still not.
Are the
Yes.
mics on?
Is that better?
Okay, there we go.
yeah. Okay. All right, you heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Just that we can have the building out into their yard where you're the 25 setback. But if we do that, we're going to have to take down the biggest oak tree on the property. And we'd really try not to remove that oak tree. So we could scoot it over to the 25-foot setbacks, but it's going to just destroy the best oak tree in the whole property. I have pictures of the tree if you need to see it. They
So
need-
basically what you're saying is the tree is hindering you from meeting the amount of setback that is required.
Yes, we could easily do the 25-foot setbacks, but that oak tree in front would have to go.
Okay,
That's the biggest thing.
okay,
And they're willing to do that, but they don't want to. They just need a building really bad.
got it. Okay, Ms. Bush, you had a question for the applicant?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I guess my first question is, what is the need for the accessory structure, and can it be smaller?
I mean, he's got to put cars inside of it. He's got antique cars. He needs the storage really bad.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Was there anything else you'd like to add?
Just that we don't want to remove that tree.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Ms. Summers, do we have any public participation forums?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. Mr.
Case B-25-022, that we approve the variance with the staff recommended conditions.
Okay, and how many conditions
Two.
do we have on that? 2, okay.
And I'd just like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Shelley.
I was, I appreciate the picture of the tree. To have that perspective has influenced me more. Anyway, I was leaning towards a no vote on this, but I will now be voting for approval.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right. All those in favor, I've got a motion on the floor to approve variance V 25-020-0222 with the two conditions,
Who's second?
staff conditions,
Oh,
and
was
it's
that- I
and a
second.
second from,
Okay.
I apologize, he's a new member.
Yep.
And I keep on, Mr. Urson. I'll get it. It might take me a day or two, but I'll get it. From Mr. Urson. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1 with Ms. Bush in dissent. Okay, Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case -V-25-024, variance to the maximum fence height requirements on urban single-family residential R3 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Harris, this one's yours.
Morning. The applicant is seeking a variance to increase the maximum allowed front yard fence height from 4 feet to 6 feet. The applicant proposes to replace an existing 42-foot long, 6-foot high wooden fence and install a new 12-foot wide, 6-foot high steel swing gate supported by two 6-inch concrete block posts in the same layout and location within the front yard. According to section 72-282 of the zoning code, fences in front yards are limited to a maximum height of 4 feet in residential zoning classifications. The property is a 3/4 acre parcel in the land. It is on urban single-family residential with a future land use of urban low intensity. The property does not contain unusual physical or legal constraints that prevent compliance. The request is based solely on privacy and safety concerns. Staff recommendation is to deny the variance request as it fails to meet 3 of the 5 criteria. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Any questions, Ms. Bush?
Thank you, Chairman. Was a permit pulled for the original 6-foot fence? That was my question.
I could not find the permit for the 6-foot fence.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is the applicant present? Could you come forward, please? Can I get your name and address for the record, sir?
Yeah, good morning. Name's Sebastian Diaz. Address is 1665 Beasley Drive in the land.
Okay. And
My name is Adina Rep Diaz, and 1665 Beasley Drive, DeLand, Florida.
okay. You've heard the staff report. Anything that you would like to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, the existing fence was already there, just kind of came down, hurricane damage started kind of coming down. So it was, when we bought the property in 2021, it was already 6 feet high. It actually had even the gate in the front that was closed off. We just kind of opened it up and it was all wooden. So yeah, mainly just that it was an existing fence already there. We thought we could just, bring it back up, repair it. But then we started talking with the guys and we're like, you might want to pull a permit on it because I don't want to do the work and then have issues later. So that was the reason. There isn't a road. I called the county, and one of the reasons that they said was Fatio Road that was there. It's just there's no road there. There's actually just trees and bushes.
There wouldn't be able to have a road there anyways, because if you go to the
You want to
north,
speak
there's a
into the
house.
mic, please, hon?
If you go into the north, that's somebody else's house, so there would be a dead-end street even if they were to make a road there in the future.
Yeah, that's mainly it. I mean, we've seen some properties in the area that do have 6 feet high, like they go up 6 feet off the main road. Like I've driven around, there's 4 feet and there's 6 feet. So I thought, hey, it shouldn't be a huge issue. Mainly it's the privacy, security. We have pets, we have kids. We've renovated the property a little bit. It used to look very different. So it's kind of come a long way. And yeah, I don't think it'll be I don't think it's going to be a major impact on the community, going from 4 feet to 6 feet, just more privacy and security. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Costa, you had a question?
I do. So are you replacing it with the same wooden fence, 6-foot wooden fence as well?
It would be, yeah. It would be a 6 feet wooden fence. And we originally said that we wanted to put like a gate, but now we just want to make sure that we got the post up and everything, but we want to put the fence and in the future put in a gate to enclose it, but that's not the biggest issue right now. But yeah.
Just for clarification, so the piece that you're replacing, that's on the Facio roadside, correct?
Yes, that's along the Fatio road. There's no road there currently.
Correct.
There used to be in the past.
So your
from what I
your
understand.
primary front road or frontage of the property is actually on the other side. So you're the victim of two front yards, basically.
Yeah, it's weird because our electric bill comes in as a different address, and we've called multiple times.
Mhm.
And instead of 1665 Beasley, it says 301 Fatio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Bush, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious how a 2-foot difference is going to provide additional privacy and security.
It's a 3-story, building. So we've got, the basement, second floor, and then the third floor. So just mainly sitting out on the front porch. We got kids. Sometimes they're in underwear, walking around and stuff like that. It's not going to be a huge privacy. It's more of like a, outside looking in kind of thing. And it just looks more visually, pleasing with the 6 feet versus the 4 foot.
Okay. I could not find another 6-foot fence on Beasley Drive, so I'm just concerned that, you've suggested that others are in the area, but I couldn't find that myself.
Right. Beasley Drive is one, I would say less than even a quarter. It's literally just that. But there isn't, and we're at the very end of the street. So
You're on a dead-end street.
I'm on a dead-end street,
Yeah,
right. So
that's
there's no...
why I'm questioning the safety and security component that you wrote in your variance application.
Right. Yeah, I'm not speaking on Beasley. There isn't any other, front-facing, but around, the neighborhood. And I didn't think about bringing pictures or anything like that, but yes, you're right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, Ms. Summers, do we have any public participation forums?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Case V-25-024, that we approve the one variance with the one staff recommended condition.
Second.
I've got a motion from Mr. Costa to approve V-25-024 with the one staff condition and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to say that I think this is one of those, I thought we had taken care of this where you had 2 front yards. I thought we had put this to bed already, because that technically would be a side yard.
Yep.
Especially not a traveled road or a paved road at this point. And that's why I have no issue with this. If it was like on the frontage facing, what is that other
Beasley.
road?
Yeah.
Beasley, that would be a different conversation. But this particular instance, I think we're good to go, my opinion.
I concur.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1 with Ms. Bush in dissent. Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-025. Variance to increase maximum lot coverage on urban single-family residential R9 zoned property.
Mr. Shams, this one's yours.
Hi, good morning. The applicant's proposing a variance to increase their maximum lot coverage from 35% to 42.18% for a new home. The current home was constructed in 1963 and is approximately 2,300 square feet, which is a lot coverage of about 23%. It was damaged in Hurricane Milton last year, and due to significant roof damage, the owner wants to replace it. The proposed home has a square footage of all the roofed area of about 4,282 square feet. The property itself is 10,151 square feet. As you can see in the site plan, the proposed home does meet the setback requirements in the R9 zoning class. but it exceeds the lot coverage. Overall, staff does recommend denial as the variance does not meet any of the 5 criteria. We found there's no special condition. It's not the minimum variance, and it's not really consistent with the neighborhood. If PLDRC finds evidence to approve, we are recommending 3 conditions. I'm available for comment or question.
Thank you, Mr. Shams. Any questions for the staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Yes, good morning. Carlos Lopez, it's 205 South Venetian Way.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, thanks for letting me speak this morning. First of all, as they mentioned, the house got damaged by a tornado during Hurricane Milton, and so did several houses in the neighborhood. But we lost about 3/4 of the paper on the roof and just left it in plywood and soaking rain for 6 hours. All the sheetrock from the top down flooded. We had to tear it down in the inside. Then when we got in there with the contractor we're looking at, it's a house built in 63. There's none of the current hurricane codes built there. You know, there's no tie downs for the trusses, no rebar reinforcement. So, you know, we're thinking pouring $300,000 into a house that's still built to code from 1963 doesn't make a lot of sense. I did have a couple of issues that I wanted to raise, and I appreciate the staff report. But there are several houses that I provided in the neighborhood, contrary to the report, that are over 4,000 square feet. And some of the new properties that are being built there are similar to the size that we're recommending. The other issue is we could build it bigger by making it 2 stories, but we spoke to our neighbors, and I think some of the issue there would be it would take away more from the neighborhood than keeping it a single story. So that's why we went back with the builder and came up with a single story design, because the initial one was 2 stories and was bigger, so we dropped it down to a single story. If you have any questions, happy to.
Okay, let's see if we have any questions for you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Costa.
Good morning.
The original house was what, half the size, 2,300?
Right.
And not salvageable at all. So you're basically, it's a complete tear down, or have you torn it down already, or you're planning on tearing it down?
No, it's not torn down yet. We're waiting to get the variance to either approved or denied, so we can decide whether we're going to go with a 2-story or a single story. But I'd be throwing $300,000 into a house that's not up to what I would think current building codes, and I just don't.
How long have you lived there?
We've owned the house for almost 5 years now. It'll be in October.
Any conversation with the neighbors regarding because you're going up 2 stories now? The original house is single story, and this.
No, we're this one's 1 story.
Oh, a single story.
That's why we need the lot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Otherwise, we'd have to go to 2 stories.
Okay.
And stay within the
envelope
lot coverage. And
got it.
I think that would be more of an eyesore than.
Okay, that answers that question for me then. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I've got a question, sir. The neighboring homes there, are those 2-story or single-story homes?
In that area?
Yes, sir.
Well, 2 of the ones that I gave you are literally on the block behind us that are 2 stories. There's a new one coming up that's also at least 2 stories. It might be a 3-story. And there's 2 houses down from me on 215 Venetian Way that's a 2-story. That one's a 3,000 square foot house on a 8,000 square foot lot. So it's even a less lot coverage percentage than what we're asking for. So they have more lot coverage as far as percentage-wise than what we're asking for.
Okay. Okay, sir. That's all my questions. Ms. Craig.
Have you had any issues with flooding?
No, thank God. We've, with all the storms, we haven't had any issue at all with flooding.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, sir. Do we have any public participation forms for this case?
No, sir.
All right, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'm prepared for a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Case V-25-025, I make a motion that we approve the variance with 3 staff recommended conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay. I got a motion on the floor for case V-25-025 from Mr. Costa for an approval to that variance from Mr. Costa and a second from Mr. Yeah, here we go. I don't mean to do this to you for. Yeah.
Oh, what's his
I'm
name?
going to remember. I'm going to write it down. Urson. And second for Mr. Urson. With this 3 staff conditions. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr.
Miss-
Chair,
Mr.
I just want to point out something for your consideration. So the motion is to approve the additional lot coverage with a justification provided by the applicant that they will only want 1 story. That is not a condition of your approval.
Correct.
So in the future, they could have the same lot coverage and multiple stories if they decide to change their plan, unless this commission limits the height or limits the
By
number
an
of
additional
stories.
condition.
Yes, if the justification is, I do not want to build a 2-story house, therefore give me more lot coverage.
We can add that condition to it,
Yes,
which
sir.
we don't currently have in here.
Yes, yes, sir.
Got it. Okay. Ms. Bush.
I'm gonna again side with staff in recommending, or my vote's gonna be a denial of this. I think that the applicant can go 2 stories. There are other examples in the neighborhood, just 1 street over. The examples he provided were all 2-story homes, so I just think that we are already struggling with a greater increase in impervious surface in the county that's causing some of the excess flooding. You all have mentioned and asked whether or not there's flooding on this property. He's only owned it for 5 years. We don't know the past history of that in the neighborhood. So I am very concerned about approving a variance with an additional lot coverage without mitigating where that surface water is going to go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Costa, would you want to amend your approval to make it 1 story, or would you want to leave as is?
I would leave it as is, but I'll ask the applicant that question, if he's okay with that condition.
Absolutely. We will not build at that lot coverage for 2 stories.
Good enough, then I'll take that as a condition.
I concur.
Single story only. So back to the,
Well,
let's revise the motion to basically say conditions 1, 2, 3,
and 4.
and 4th one being to be a single story home only.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Urson, you good with that?
I concur.
Okay.
The 1 story is if it's at that lot coverage, correct?
Yes.
That's perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, I've got any other comments for this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Let's get a roll call.
Mr. Harrison,
Approve.
Ms. Craig,
No.
Ms. Shelley,
No.
Mr. Mills,
Yes.
Mr. Costa,
Yes.
Ms. Bush.
No.
A motion fails to carry, correct? With a 4 to 2.
Yes, so that particular question failed. The application is still alive, pending some additional conditions or someone making a motion to deny, or you can offer the applicant, because you have an even number, you need a minimum 4 to continue to a date certain, so you have a full roster of the commission here.
Well, we've got 4-2, so even if we had the other one, it wouldn't matter.
I thought the vote was 3-3.
Oh, 3.
The man went all yes.
Oh, okay, you was for it? Oh, I thought you were against it, I'm sorry. So we got a
That
3-3 vote, which is considered a no vote.
Yes, sir.
And so,
You can let the condition stand, and then if no further actions are taken, then the application fails for failure to obtain a minimum of 4 for approval.
okay. And then he can make a request to continue for a full commission vote?
So the options you can continue the item, you can let the technical denial stand, in which case the applicant has the right to appeal to the county council. Or someone can make a motion to deny the application, and if it receives 4 votes, that application is denied with appropriate findings.
I want to make sure the applicant understands there's options here, please. So you have 2 options that I can see, and I'm going to interject here, and I'll be corrected as necessary. You can continue the case, which means you come back in 30 days, and when we have a full panel, we're missing 1 gentleman down. Or you can take it as is, as a denial, and then appeal it to the council, the county council, and basically plead your case there and see which way they vote on it. Those are your 2 options, I believe.
No, that's fine. We can take a denial if that's going to be the vote. Thanks.
Well, it's a tie vote, so yes, a technical denial.
Okay. Okay, that settles that.
Thank you.
No further motions, that application is deemed denied.
Careful the discussion.
Okay. All right. Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-026, variance to the minimum yard requirements in the urban single-family residential R5 zone classification.
Mr. Shams, this is you.
Hi, good morning again. So the applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the western rear yard from 20 feet to 15 feet to allow the construction of a new 1,320 square foot detached garage. The site itself is 18,855 square feet, which is more than 3 times the R5 requirement. It's currently developed with a 1,374 square foot home and a 470 square foot wooden shed. The applicant is looking to replace the shed with the new detached garage to house vehicles and trailers to keep them out of the right-of-way. The existing shed is 10 feet from the western property line. However, there is a 15-foot utility easement on the western side, so the replacement structure cannot be within the easement. The applicant wants to put the structure at the easement line, which is 15 feet. Due to the requirement, a variance is required. Overall, staff recommends denial as it fails to meet 3 of the 5 criteria. There's no special condition. He's not prevented from building the garage, and there is other space to house the structure. If PLDRC finds evidence to approve, we recommend 3 conditions. I'm available for comment or question.
Thank you, Mr. Shams. Any questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? You want to come forward, sir? Ma'am. Good morning. You've heard you want to get your name and address for the record?
Scott Baker, 644 Williamsburg Drive, Daytona Beach.
Okay, and yours, ma'am?
And I'm his wife, Diane Baker, at 644 Williamsburg Drive.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Is there anything you'd like to add to it?
Well, the setback is normally 20 feet off the back, and we just like to put the new garage to the 15-foot. We didn't know there was an easement, so he pointed that out to us on the phone. So we would like to go with that setback to 15-foot. We'd like to keep the building setback from the front of the house. And I do park my pickup truck with the trailer often, which puts me right now on the apron and the sidewalk of the public street in front of the house on Williamsburg. So I'd like to set the garage back further to the 15-foot line so I could keep my vehicle off the sidewalk.
Okay.
Anything?
And just for aesthetics, I mean, if we put it out Paris where you guys want it, the streets kind of go, the houses are all in line. So if we have to move it, it's going to actually be out past our house and not look aesthetically correct.
There's also a chain link fence that's existing on that piece of property right now, and it's intertwined with wisteria, and there's palm trees that would need to be taken down at an additional cost to take the fence down and the trees down to put the building at the 20-foot normal setback.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Ms. Bush?
Thank you, Chairman. So thank you for the explanation as to why you couldn't move the structure and why the variance request is present. I see that you have a second apron poured. Are you planning on using that apron to access this garage?
Yes, it was broken. There's a live oak tree on the corner that's probably 300 years old, the county guys told me, and it had destroyed the original apron and the sidewalk, and the roots came up through the street. So they milled the road, and then they moved the apron down 20 foot closer to my driveway now, the 644. The 640, that was that lot originally that had an apron, and they had moved it down 20 feet to give me a little bit better, straighter shot access to the new garage.
So you'll be using that apron to access the garage once
Yes.
it's constructed?
Correct.
Okay. And you currently park the vehicles outside, correct?
Yes.
Is there a reason to park them inside?
No, not really.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, Ms. Summers, do we have any public participation forms for this one?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'll be glad to make a motion.
Go ahead, Ms. Shelley.
Move that we approve case number V-25-026, subject to the staff conditions
3 of them.
listed on page 5.
I'll second.
Got a motion on the floor from Ms. Shelley to approve variance V-25-026 with the 3 staff recommended conditions. And a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Bush?
Thank you, Chairman. Again, kind of going back, agreeing with staff, this doesn't meet any of the variance criteria, number 1. Number 2, the applicant is requesting a much larger accessory structure than what exists. And I am concerned about not just the fact that this property might not meet the impervious surface ratio, but again, we're building more without compensating where stormwater might be located. I understand the applicant's needs and concerns, but if there's no need to park the vehicles inside and he just needs additional space, I'm really not sure how this building will provide that. So I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I've got Ms. Craig and Ms. Bush in dissent,
I
correct?
believe he said no as well.
Mr. Ursson, you said no also? So we got another 3-3?
Yes, sir. Same options. You could have another motion, mess with some of the conditions. With no further motions, it's going to go as a denial.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a comment. I guess I should have made it before we took a vote, but we're talking a setback to the easement, not to the property line.
Correct.
Yep.
And I have a problem with these that do that, so.
I, no, sir, the setback was from the property line, 20 feet from the property line. That is a 15-foot utility easement that, by code, no principal or accessory structure can be located within a platted easement. You can't get a variance to that. So the applicant originally had it.
That's where the easement came in.
Yes, sir.
So that's why it was 15.
That's correct.
Okay,
because
I see. Now,
the rear yard
Mr. Shams, when
setback
he was
is
talking
20
about
feet.
the easement, I thought the setback was from the easement.
No, sir. The original structure and what the original proposal was to have it in the easement, and because the code does not permit that, you can't get a variance to that. they had it located outside of it, and they're going outside as minimal as possible, which is the 15 foot. The rear yard setback is 20.
Got
They're asking for a reduction of 5 feet.
My apologies. I should have listened better. Okay. All right. Okay, we give the applicant an option here. You could do a continuance to a full board, which is one other person. Because right now you have what they call a technical denial. It takes 4 votes for a variance to be approved. And you got a 7-member board. Right now it's 3-3. So you can ask for a continuance for a full board, or you can accept the denial and you can appeal it to the county council if you wish to do that. You can go there on an appeal. Or you can accept the denial.
We need you on the mic, please, for the record. Thank you.
So if we do the continuance, then we come back here again and we propose this whole proposal again. Okay, that's just what I want to understand. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion if someone wants to do that.
Are they, that what they want to do? They want to continue?
Yes.
I'll make a motion on case V-25-026 that we continue this to the May hearing. I don't have a date for that. Do we have a date for the May meeting?
Can look it up.
It's May 17th.
May 17th to the May 17th PLDRC meeting.
May 15th, sorry about that.
15? All right.
I'll second that.
Is it the 15th?
Is it
Okay,
1-5?
before we.
So, okay, so
There-
motion is to continue this case to the May 15th PLDRC meeting.
I'll second. Yeah.
No, Mr. Hurston already.
Oh, okay. He's getting fast.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to continue the case V-25-026 to our next meeting of May 15th, 2025 for Mr. Costa and a second for Mr. Hurston. Any discussion on that motion?
Only one suggestion to the applicants when they come back. I would suggest they bring some letters of support from the neighbors. Outside of that, I have no other comment.
And additional pictures, if you could.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Everybody agreed to that? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. See you next month. Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-027, a variance to the minimum yard requirements on urban single-family residential R4 zoned property.
Okay. Mr. Shams, this one's yours also.
Hi, good morning again. So just wanted to point out this application did receive one letter of support from an adjacent neighbor. The applicant's seeking a variance to reduce the east front yard from 25 feet to 10 feet for an 1,800 square foot detached garage. The site itself is technically a corner lot, as there's a front yard on the north and east side. The owner recently combined the two parcels, the one where the house sits and then the parcel to the south, into one unified site. It is now approximately 31,970 square feet, which is more than 4 times the minimum area requirement of R4. The site is developed with a 1,700 square foot home and an in-ground pool with screen enclosure. There are also 3 accessory structures totaling about 587 square feet along the eastern property boundary. These structures are used to house the applicant's boat and equipment for a commercial fishing business he has. He wants a new garage to safely house his property. The proposed placement of the structure is to ensure his boat trailer can navigate up the east side of the site without the need to turn around obstacles. He does access the site from Doris Street, and there is a drain field on the east side of the house. So the space between the drain field and the eastern property line is 38 feet, as you can see in the diagram, and he aligned the structure so that he can drive straight in and out along that space. The east property line and the area south of the proposed structure are heavily wooded. As I said, it's a corner lot, subject to 2 25-foot front yards. In order to meet the applicant's request, a variance is required. However, staff recommends denial as it fails to meet 3 of the 5 criteria. There's no special condition due to the size of the property, and he's not prevented from building the structure outside of the east yard. Furthermore, the orientation of the structure can be shifted further east. PLDRC does recommend approval. We have one condition, and I'm available for comment or question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shantz. Mr. Costa?
2 questions. What is the side yard setback on this lot?
Minimum is 8 feet.
8 feet side yard?
Yes, sir.
And front yard is?
25.
And with this additional structure if approved, where would it put them with maximum lot coverage? Are they still in?
They're well below.
Well below?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Ms. Craig?
Did you say that it could be moved further to the east?
Oh, further west. My mistake.
Oh, thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
Anyone else? Okay, is the applicant present?
And Mr. Chair, the applicant does not need to provide their name.
Right, I see that. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you? How's everybody doing?
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I do. Biggest concern I got 2 issues. One, I agree with Mr. Shams. I can move the building. In order to do so, I need to clear out about 1,600 square feet of perfectly good woods for no reason. If I'm granted the variance, I'm with Ms. Bush as well on several of these things here, the topics of flooding and concrete and taking the woods down when there's no reason to. The east side of my lot, I don't know if there's an aerial picture from the top that we could look at, but it is heavily wooded. We live on a dirt road. It's non-county maintained. I maintain it. Maximum speed, if you're lucky, about 6 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour at the bottom falling out of your truck. I could utilize this property to move the shop, but unfortunately with the offshore boat business, everybody knows they're big. I have several structures that have been removed from the property already. They've been sold. My wife was tired of all the eyesores of having sheds in multiple buildings across the property. So we decided to go ahead and have one structure that can house my boats. I do currently own 3 of them. My business is located here in Volusia County, Just Hook Fishing Charters. I fish out of New Smyrna and Ponce Inlet area. This gives me the opportunity to keep my boats secured in the one private building to where I can work on them and obviously keep them safe. Unfortunately, they're very expensive nowadays, and it's about the cost of my house is on one of my vessels that I own. Also, too, if I was to turn the shop to try to access Pine Avenue, there is a utility pole that I cannot navigate around without driving through my neighbor's yard, and also the preservation of the oak trees that I have here. They're not considered historic oak trees, but they are oak trees, and there's no sense of clearing out this large amount of area when the petition for the variance is only I'm asking for a few feet. I've had the sheds here for quite some time. I've had the property since 2011. I wasn't aware of the 25-foot requirement. I've had these sheds here for a very long time. Since I was made aware of this with Mr. Shams, I have since removed them and sold them, and they're actually off the property now. With that being said, the building is color matched to my house. I have one freestanding structure instead of multiple objects here in the yard with a very, very minimal amount. We're looking at probably about 400 square feet. I'm planning on using the shop, as you can see here, to probably about half of it to a third of it in a pre-existing yard. It's already been cleared. That way I don't have to clear any more of the property to accommodate the building, which, like I said, is about 2,000 square foot I'd have to clear in the property behind me.
Okay. Mr. Costa, you had a question?
Yes, good morning. The access on the proposed building would be, you'd be coming in from Doris Street, correct?
Yes, sir. I'd be accessing my own property. I wouldn't be using any easement or anybody else's property.
So you come in off of Doris, so
Yes, sir.
you
That's how I
won't
have
be
to-
touching the woods that are on Pine?
No, sir.
Okay. And the thing about moving it to the west, I see that in the area, I see the wooded area you're talking about, but it also looks, if you pushed it over, that it would also line up that building with the backside of your pool screen deck, which I don't think that would be aesthetically pleasing either.
Yes, and also too, something else I want to bring to your attention. The proposed plan here is to leave the building approximately 27 feet 1 inch off the rear property line. If I was to move that to where it was centered and face centered in the backside, there's a recently purchased house that was several $100,000. We'd be putting the building approximately 9 to 10 feet off the property line, which would be an eyesore to my neighbors as well. Right now, I have a 27-foot buffer with oak trees there that actually hides the building.
And I just want to clarify the statement you made earlier. So the 3 sheds or existing buildings that I'm seeing on the drawing, those are eliminated once the new building goes up?
They're already gone.
They're already gone?
Yep,
Okay.
and also the structure where I kept one of the boats on the west side of the house, that has also been removed as well.
Okay.
So I have no structures on the boat. The boats are actually sitting in the front yard right now.
And I also see that we have one letter of support from one of your neighbors in
Yes, sir.
the packet. Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing
Yeah,
none.
one more. But
Yeah,
that letter of support's from the owner to the rear of the property? Is that correct?
The reader of the property, sir?
The rear of the property.
The rear.
The letter that was received.
We don't know who sent a letter in.
Is that right?
I have no idea who sent a letter, and I do. I have one of my neighbors here present with us, but I'm not aware of any letters that were sent in.
We got one.
Okay.
Nobody told me
Okay.
anything, so that's I guess even better, as long as it's in support.
Okay, we've got a letter of support, and also we have a request in favor of it. So after we hear their comment, we'll probably close the floor for
Okay,
commissioner
thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. You can have a seat now. Mr. Reginald Milt. Good morning, sir. You have something you'd like to add to this case?
Good morning. Reginald Mills. I live at on Doris Street, a neighbor of his, I'm sorry. And I have no objection to him putting up this structure. I think it's architecturally designed and approved, and I have no objections. That's all I need to say.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comment. Okay, do we have any other public participation forms for this case?
No, sir.
All right, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Case B-25-027, motion to approve the variance with one staff recommended condition.
Second.
We got a motion on the floor from Mr. Costa to approve V-25027 with the one staff condition, and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
I know staff lost, there's no special conditions, but it's always something that I look at, consider when I'm making a decision, is the fact that this house is considered having 2 front yards, which also changes the setbacks. So just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Ms. Bush?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for answering my question that I was going to ask about the access off of Pine Drive. I think after looking at the aerial, it's pretty evident that that would be really difficult to get big vehicles in and out of there. So I understand why you'd want to bring it off of Doris Street. I did have a question maybe for staff or you, and I apologize, I didn't get it out beforehand. But I know you tore down the shed, but the smaller shed was closer to the side of Pine Street than what you're proposing here.
It was actually approximately 4 foot.
Okay.
I didn't tear those down. They were actually sold. I have a friend who owns a shed moving business. They were sold and moved out by truck and trailer. Obviously gives them plenty of room there. The drain field was another concern to try to navigate some of these larger vessels in and out. Obviously the one boat's probably about 12,000 pounds. I don't want to fall through my drain field either, nor do I want to tear up any of the neighbor's property by swinging it out and crossing over their property as well.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for
You're
that
welcome.
additional answer. Normally I would probably, again, not meeting any of the variance requirements, be a denial on this, but I think that this does pose some very special conditions there's a hardship for a business owner here. Though I did not see the aesthetics of the building within the application, I would like to see that moving forward from staff or for future variances. That was something that I always requested or looked at when I served and provided support from the staff perspective to P&Z boards that I provided, that I worked for before, just to make sure that it is in keeping with the architecture and the similarity of the house. But I trust that you and your neighbor have worked out that it's going to look that way. So those are just my comments. I will probably be approving this. So thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations.
Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case read, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-028, variances to construct a single-family dwelling on a substandard lot and reduce the minimum yard requirements on urban single-family residential R9 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Harris, this one's yours.
Good morning. The applicant is seeking variances to construct a new two-story single-family residence on a substandard lot and reduce the minimum front and rear yard setbacks. Variance 1 is to allow construction on a substandard lot that does not meet the required 75-foot width and 7,500 square foot minimum of the zoning classification. Variance 2 is to reduce the front yard from 25 feet to 20 feet, and variance 3 is to reduce the rear yard from 20 feet to 19 feet. The property is a 3,400 square feet and considered a substandard lot because it is less than 5,000 square feet in area. The parcel is 50 feet wide and was reduced to 67 feet deep due to Florida's Department of Transportation's right-of-way acquisition along Turtle Mound Road in the 60s. A similar variance was approved in 2017, but expired without development. The proposed home footprint measures 36 feet by 28 feet and reflects the minimum variance needed to provide a reasonable buildable area. Environmental permitting reviewed the request and requires compliance with Class 2 overlay standards. Staff recommendation is to approve variance requests 1, 2, and 3 with conditions as it meets 5 of the 5 criteria. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Ms. Bush?
The environmental permitting letter says that they do not have any issue with a rezoning. I'm assuming that that's...
Typo.
Okay. I assumed that. And then, are there any architectural elevations for this home?
They were not provided.
Do we know where the driveway is going to be located? It's not on the site plan.
Yeah, Ms. Bush, Scott Ashley zoning, the applicant hasn't provided that information just yet. I don't think they're gone to the building permit phase just yet. They know they have issues. And also from the staff report, we've indicated this was a previous variance that expired. So they're basically coming back showing that they would meet the same standards as that previous case. So the final drawings, if you will, have not been provided and determined. It is... Frontage would have to be, a driveway connection would be to Turtle Mound Road. It is a county maintained road, so it'd be addressed by our permitting staff, would be the development engineering group that look at spacing from a neighboring property. And it has to be at least 5 feet from the subject property line.
Understood.
And,
can you tell me how the applicant is meeting the 35% coverage for the Class 2 overlay? It wasn't clear in the environmental permitting letter.
well, I didn't see if the staff made that comment, but it is a requirement of the Class 2 that they'll have to demonstrate through the building permitting process, not only 35% native vegetation, also on-site stormwater requirements as part of the Class 2 provision. Because of the size of the property, typically environmental staff has worked with applicants on these much smaller lots to get to that requirement. They have more latitude because it is a land development code provision versus a zoning requirement to try to address unique circumstances like this lot.
Okay. And then do you know what the ISR ratio is on this lot?
I don't think, no, ma'am. If they are not exceeding the 35% lot coverage, we have not, that's all we're looking at. They could, under the code, go up as tall as 35 feet pursuant to the zoning. But we don't usually apply the floor area ratio to residential and primary commercial.
You don't. And that includes the driveway?
Well, the impervious area, that's what goes back to the regular permitting we talked about earlier. 35% is the building coverage that we deal with. The 80% is the impervious from the land development code. So we look at that as part of the permitting. That's where you're concerned about the 35% common open space or planting area that the environmental staff would be looking at.
Right, that was for the class 2 overlay.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the ISR, I would assume, would be different.
It'd be different, but I mean, as far as impacting the property, it's eat away at that overall impervious that they would be normally allowed, because a much smaller lot's going to be compressed and have to meet the drainage and the vegetation requirements. So we don't have that number yet, because all they're showing is the building pad. We don't know where the driveway is. There going to be a patio, anything like that at this point.
Understood. Just know going forward that that's going to be questions that I'm going to always ask, just because of the flooding issues. Again, I don't want to have to sound like a broken record here. But we are, the variance request is for minimum yard setbacks, which means that the building is larger. So I would definitely want to see the ISR as a part of that. And I'm under the impression, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, that ISR changes per zoning district. Like, it would be less in an agriculture zoned property and it would be substantially more within residential. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I have not done a deep dive into your zoning codes. So it's standard 80 and 35 across the board.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Scott, real quick here, we're not asking for lot coverage variance, correct?
We are not.
Okay. So that if they were to do the more than 35%, then they'd have to ask for a variance, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That was just what I needed to know. Okay, is the applicant present?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Brent Walters, 421 North Causeway, New Smyrna Beach, 32169.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to it?
Just a little bit of clarification. The driveway will front Turtle Mound Road as a normal driveway. That's the only road. This is not a corner lot or a through lot. The impervious surface ratio, we will meet all those criteria. We're not asking for any variances there. As far as the class 2 overlay with native vegetation, all those, we're very familiar with building in the area. I actually received this variance several years ago, then sold the lot, and then it's coming back to life again. We'll be building it for the owner. We don't have the elevations for the house, but it will be a coastal style house that fits down the area there. We're very familiar with building them. I appreciate your consideration.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, Ms. Summers, do we have any public participation form for this case?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation. We'll open up for commission discussion or a motion.
Prepare to make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you're ready.
Big come, Mr. Costa.
Case V-25-028. Make a motion that we approve variance numbers 1, 2, and 3 with the 2 staff recommended conditions.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor from Mr. Costa to approve variance V-25-028 with the 2 conditions and variances 1, 2, and 3. And a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Bush.
Thank you, Chairman. I realize that this is, you're requesting this variance again, but there are different people up on the dais at this point reviewing this information. And I just would need to see additional information in order to feel comfortable granting these variances, especially with the staff recommendation of denial. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Staff recommended approval. I believe.
Recommended approval.
Staff recommended approval. We meet all 5 criteria.
Yeah,
Additionally,
5 of 5.
The floor is closed. We'll
sorry.
take care of this. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's approval,
staff
page 1.
recommended approval.
Well, there is a correction to, it says approved variance request 1 through 4. It's 1 through 3.
Yeah, that was, the 4 is the typo. It should be 3.
Yeah, for the record.
And the motion
Yeah, I said variances 1 through 3. I didn't mention 4.
Yep.
There's
We're
no.
good.
2 conditions from staff. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-2 with Mr. Urson and Ms. Bush in denial. In dissent, not denial. Dissent. I'm getting all confused here this morning. Okay, Ms. Shelley, could I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-001, rezoning from the prime agriculture A1 zoning classification to the rural agriculture A2 zoning classification.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Ray, this one is yours.
Good morning. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from the prime agriculture A1 to the rural agriculture A2 zoning classification. The applicant's intent for the rezoning is to subdivide the property into 2 5-acre parcels. The property is triangular in shape and is currently developed with a single-family residence on the northwestern portion, a mobile home on the southern portion, and accessory structures on the northeastern point. The surrounding area is primarily developed with single-family residences and used for agricultural uses. The subject property is also directly adjacent to A2 zoning to the north, south, and west. The future land use for the property is rural, which allows a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. It also consists of areas that are a mixture of agriculture and low-density residential. The property is located within the Natural Resource Management Area and the Florida Wildlife Corridor overlay. Environmental reviewed the request and stated that there was no objection. Staff's recommendation is to forward the rezoning to County Council for final action with a recommendation of approval. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions for the staff? Ms. Bush?
Sorry, did the applicant submit a proposed lot subdivision to show where those parcel lines will be?
The applicant is present and might be able to address that answer better.
Okay,
I don't
thank
have-
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? The applicant present. Good morning, Ms. Gov.
Good morning. For the record, Jessica Gall, Cobb Cole Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard in Daytona Beach, Florida. Quick background on the overall reason for the rezoning, and then I'll address that question. This property, as noted, is surrounded by kind of developed single family. We have 2 dwelling units on the property right now, consistent with the future land use. The property owners are going through a divorce, and as part of that proceeding, the property is meant to be split, and so we're going through this process. The structures will not change. They're already at that maximum dwelling units per acre, so there's no change to the actual configuration of the property itself. It is just creating 2 parcels of record so that assets can be divided. Consistent with the future land use, we think that the goal here makes sense. It is outside of the floodplain. There are no changes actually to the number of units like we noted. We have submitted a proposed line that kick-started the discussion on needing to change the zoning classification to allow for that 5 acres consistent with the land use. It is not displayed here, but that has not undergone staff review yet, which is why we're not showing it, just because we want to make sure those proposed lines check all of the boxes of the A2 district. So we have a preliminary line that could shift. It'd have to be fully in line with the A2.
Thank you, Ms. Gov.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Do we have any public participation forums for this case?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or a motion.
I'll be glad to make a motion
Go ahead.
that we forward the rezoning application, case number Z25-001, to the County Council for final action with a recommendation of approval.
No, I'll second that.
I got a motion on the floor from Ms. Shelley to forward the rezoning application, case number Z25001, to the County Council for final action with a recommendation of approval, and a second, Mr. Urson. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. I think that pretty much covers all of our business for today. So do, Mr. Ashley or staff, do we have any other public items?
No, sir, we do not.
Any staff items?
No, sir.
Okay. Any staff comments?
Just welcome our new members to the PLDRC.
Okay. Any commission comments?
Just about the package. We did discuss that prior. Just maybe if we can improve that.
What's that?
The packet, receiving the packet.
Yeah.
Just so we can focus on that, or maybe make them available electronically.
Yeah, where are we at on that, Mr. Ashley? At one time, we weren't going to be getting our last meeting, we pretty much discussed picking them up here.
I know, I had to defer to Yolanda, but I know that it is available electronically. It can be emailed. We make a package available if you want to pick it up. I don't know if we're still mailing them or not.
Yeah, we mailed them last month.
Oh, we mailed them, so I don't know.
Yeah, West Side didn't get them, East Side did, and that's weird.
Slow mail.
I think that was the
I did
mail.
not receive a packet, and I'm on the east side, so
You got it?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I did not receive it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to work on that. Apologize.
I don't know if we can do next day. True. But that costs.
We'll see what our budget
We're lucky
allows
we're getting
us.
these.
Well, yeah, we're lucky yeah. We had to kind of come to a agreement that, we'd do the best we could to pick them up. But if I'll accept the mailing, but it's just, like I said before,
Yeah.
if you don't get them, I guess we can contact Miss Summers and at least have a packet sitting here for us when we get here the morning of the meeting. I know a lot of us like to flip back and forth through the pages while we're going through a case, and so if you're doing it electronically, it makes it more difficult unless we had our own laptops, like Miss Bush here. She brought her own, and so just do the best we can.
Yes, sir.
As long as we have that.
We'll certainly work on that.
Okay. Any other commission comments? Mr. Costa?
Yes, I've got actually two. First, I'd like to start off with welcoming our new members, and if we could take 2 minutes and for them to introduce themselves, and so we can get a little history on their background, know where they come from, that would be okay.
Yeah. Mr. Urs, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Born and raised in New Jersey, retired paramedic, moved down here after 9/11, and I got involved in a lot of homeowner associations as a licensed community association manager here in the state. And I'm a business development director currently for a large corporation. Other than that, just look forward to serving and helping out.
Okay, Ms. Bush.
Thank you. So I am an executive director of a nonprofit that serves 9 different counties in Central Florida. Prior to that, I was the development services manager for a small city in Central Florida. I have my AICP, so I am a certified planner, have experience being staff, serving planning and zoning boards, and also being a consultant on the side, writing variances and rezoning requests in Orange and Seminole counties. I currently also am an adjunct professor at UCF teaching land use and planning, and I serve on several advisory boards for the professional development of planners and practicing zoning officials as well. So I have a lot of background and experience in this. Prior to this, I was on the Seminole County Parks and Rec Advisory Board when I lived in Seminole County. I recently moved to Deltona. Prior to that, I was a resident of Deltona and served on the ECHO Advisory Board. So I do have probably a decade of public experience, both working for local and county governments and then also serving on these boards. So looking forward to sharing those experiences with you all and hopefully, providing good expertise in the matter as well. I do have a question for staff, if I could.
Sure.
Again, when I was staff, our planning and zoning board members were able to bring items forward for consideration for land use changes, not just land development regulation changes, changing to different uses within zoning codes, just updates and things like that. Is that something that we can do as sitting members?
Yes, this commission is very vocal and is not shy about expressing their opinions on how our code works. So
Okay.
if there's consensus from the commission, staff brings it forward. We get further direction from our elected county council, and then we workshop it. And then, as you may be aware, we bring it back here for how many meetings of workshops, and then
Depends.
we get final approval by whatever mechanism is appropriate to county council.
Okay, wonderful. It's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot to add one thing that's kind of a little important here. I am the president of Volusia Community Association Advisors, which was recently established. And what we do there is we are educating these owners specifically on the oceanfront buildings because of the surge and what happened in Miami. So I'm really working hard and dedicated to that organization here in Volusia County. It's actually currently in session right now, and I'm unable to miss it. I'm able to miss it, but we're going to move that date moving forward. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Costa, you had a question?
Yeah,
comment.
I still have a comment. So obviously we had a changing of the guard, but nobody's addressed that to us yet. So I would appreciate that from staff if we have a handler situation that has changed, that we be addressed in advance of the meetings, so that we know in case we had an emergency and couldn't make it into work. The only number that I have apparently is no longer working. So can somebody kind of enlighten us as to what occurred there, please?
I don't have much to add other than she's no longer with the Volusia County.
Perfect. So who's our new point of contact?
Well, right now I'm the acting interim, if you will, to oversee the PLDRC. So if
Okay.
you have questions, you can call me.
Okay.
My telephone number is 943.
Well, that would be good if you had sent that out as an email prior to, is what my point is. Is that,
Okay.
in other words, we were kept in the dark. Obviously, had I not brought it up, it wasn't being addressed at all. And I'm speaking for myself, not for the rest of the panel. But I think that was whatever occurred is irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter. I'm not in that department. I don't work for county.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from where we sit is that if that was our point of contact, that someone should have reached out and said, hey, there's been a change of the guard. Here's the new contact information. And we move forward and all is said. But basically by remaining silent, it threw a big red flag up to me.
And I just have if you would send that out in an email to us, the contact information, Scott, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Bush, you had another comment?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Vice Chair Costa said. I was interacting with Trish, I believe, Ms. Smith, for some personal questions that I had, and I got her no longer in office email, which is why I knew to just contact Yolanda. As a new board member, I really wasn't sure who else to go to at that time. And there are still some significant outstanding questions that I had for Ms. Smith that have gone unaddressed, and I have reached out to Carol. I saw her at the Osteen community meeting. She did indicate she was going to get back to me. I know you all are very, very busy, so I understand and appreciate that, but I would like some response to those questions, one of which I would love to just ask right now. She indicated that Osteen community meeting was based on an updating of the EAR, of the comprehensive plan, but that EAR, I believe, was done a few years ago, or there was a letter submitted saying that you didn't need to update the comp plan. So I'm just, can you tell me when you are going to update the comp plan and why that meeting was called as an update to the EAR? And that's an evaluation and appraisal report, so a requirement by the state to update the comp plan every 7 years.
I'm not sure that the Osteen meeting that was held was an EAR update. That was a specific discussion on the Osteen local plan. It's set up to have the members of the community,
It was in the public notice, as it said it in the public notice. So I understand and I agree with you, but it was put in the public notice that way, so that's why I asked that question.
I'm not sure. Other than I'm not sure what what is left to do on the art year report. We had been updating it, and I don't think there was anything left to do it, but that's something we'll have to check.
Yeah, I'm not been part of the year process because I was zoning. I hadn't been doing PLDRC and comp planning for about 4.5 years now. So we'll look into that. But my understanding, there were issues with the Osteen questions. So in requests from the community to have a meeting to discuss it, staff certainly has had issues dealing with the Osteen regulations for properties. And as pointed out, some of the recent cases down there. So that was one of the reasons we're looking at possible modification, and we wanted input first, get direction from the residents of the area, and then from there, look at coming back probably to maybe council to give, here's the insights we received from the neighbors, and this is what we think may need to be happening, give us direction on how to move forward.
Understood.
But as far as that, I personally didn't know it was anything related to the year.
I was just really curious on the year. I understand the community process and what the intent is behind that community meeting, really just that connection. Are you currently updating the comp plan? Are you in that year process now?
I don't believe so.
I don't know.
Okay. Because that was supposed to be done back in 2021, I believe was the requirement.
Right. We have been updating the various elements, as it comes across for our year-based amendments. I mean, it went before this commission, and this commission has been, if you remember the many discussions on potable water, sewer, those were our year-based amendments.
We've been doing it as individual elements. We didn't do the whole document all at once, so it's been coming up as the documents, in my understanding.
Yeah, we passed a lot of different elements.
Yes,
So
but they were done in singly.
Well, I say passed, we sent recommendations to council on the sanitary sewer element, I
think we did
a few
affordable
others.
housing and transportation.
Yeah,
I think the
we
land
did-
use
we
is still in the
looked at
works though.
those. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, Mr.?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
No,
we did do
that's all for
land use.
now.
We did not touch the local plans because the EAR is making sure you're consistent
And
with the
compliant.
state, right? The local plans are it's our thing, right? There's no state requirement to check other than internal inconsistency. So I think we're done with the EAR amendments as far as I'm aware. Right. So I'm being told next update is 2029. So if you're still here and sitting, we get to do that rodeo again.
Okay, and for our new members, I'd like to say that, from my perspective, sitting on this board, and I understand, Ms. Bush, you're with your knowledge and everything, you was more into the regulatory side, and that's why, and I find that from the regulatory side, it's always a black and white issue. Either it is or it isn't. And the reason for this variance board is to look into the gray area, that if it makes common sense and if it works within the area, because one shoe doesn't fit all in a lot of the codes and things. So if it seems like we're not following the specific criteria, is because we're looking at it from an objective way of what the homeowner is presenting to us. And so it may not be the black and white side of it. It's more of does it make sense? Does it fit? There's just a lot of things that go through each and one of our minds as how we feel about it. And so, but I will say this, as myself, and I speak for myself and probably a lot of the members, I do respect everybody's opinion and will give you that respect, because there's no wrong. I think I've told some of our other members that come in before, there's no wrong opinion. I respect your opinion, and that's what we're here for. And so it may seem like we're battling each other, but that's not the case a lot of times,
No.
And I just want you to feel comfortable with that.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So far, I felt pretty comfortable being the lone descendant or, naysayer on these. You know, I am under the impression, and you know, my training and background, I have offered flexibility to the applicants that have come through the communities that I've served. It really just depends on whether that onus is truly a hardship or not. And I understand that very necessary gray. That's why I did vote for a few of those, even though they didn't necessarily meet the requirements of the variance. But I am going to look at the entitlements that are given to a property and stick clearly to those, just because we as property owners have to follow those rules for the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. That is why our elected body is elected to serve in that realm, both at the local level, the state, and the federal level. So I take that very seriously, and we have those rules in place to help ensure that we don't do harm as we continue to develop in our community.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to, you know, just give you a lighter side. It may seem like we're on opposite ends all the time, but I'm just telling you from my point of view. Okay.
It's our first meeting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other commission comments? Press and citizen comments? This meeting's adjourned.